And now it's official. Good evening and welcome. Welcome to your Monday night. Thank you so very much for taking time to join Cubbie and myself. Cubbie looks a little cold tonight,
Yeah,
bundled up,
I'm just
bundled up in the blanket.
sorry. I guess we're on air. I should pull it down. I feel like an old man, my blood thinners. I'm just kidding. I don't wear to take those yet.
It's all good. It's all good. And to be honest with you, I've got a blanket on too because while it's hot outside, my my house, the basement, just is bitter cold. So it's nice, except for it feels like drastically different. But it's all good.
Well, I'm down. I have a 4 level split house, so I'm in the lower level of mine, kind of halfway underground. Like my windows are like right at kind of ground level, so
That'll
it's
that'll make a difference for sure.
yeah, it's a little colder down here. But I didn't need to have it up during the show. Holy cow!
It's all good. It's all well.
I
We'll get Michael to like edit like parts of that out, or
hope
he'll
so.
do his magic maybe. Um, but yeah. So here's the thing. I before we get tonight's going to be question and answer night for those of you that are tuning in, and we've got a list of questions that we're going to be going down through. By all means, if you have one that you like. Or like that you've been holding on to and you'd love to ask us, by all means, drop it in the chat. But you got to do that over at YouTube because if you're doing it in Facebook land or any of the other thousands of places John has this set up to go to, I'm not seeing it. The only place I'm going to see it is over at Disc Jockey News' spot on YouTube. So go on over to youtube.com and then search for Disc Jockey News, and you'll see the one that's live. That's us. And then ask your question there, and that would be greatly appreciated. But before we get into the questions, I need to talk about this past weekend. So, Cubby, you said you were off in vacationing in Milwaukee. You were like early, right? You forgot, like Midwest. You're thinking it was last week, and
Yeah, well, actually, it wasn't a vacation. It was and I work for a company called or I do events for a company called Top Workplaces of America. And if you remember, they've taken me down to Oklahoma City, and I've got Indianapolis, and I'm coming up, and I've got Green Bay, another one we're just going to do in July. So yeah, I just go to these different locations, and this one was a morning one. It was like too early for me. Um, they're going to change it next year to the afternoon, but it was so they'd never seen anything before. Like this is an early morning meeting, and it was like super quiet. They've always had super quiet meetings. And we just come in there and raise the level. You know, bringing DJ is something that we started in my market, and they've started taking it throughout the nation with other markets now and hiring DJs across places that I can't go. And so you're just playing walk-up music as people went. First, you're spending for an hour as people arriving, keep the energy high and the BPMs high, and then just playing walk-up music as people are winning their awards that may be kind of funny in their industry. Like United Healthcare won an award, and I played "Staying Alive" as they walked up, um, and people got it. Like some people was like, I was like, "Oh my God, thanks for getting it," you know. But there was one in Oklahoma City was an aeronautical engineering company, so he played "Fly Me to the Moon," you know, just stupid stuff. It's stupid. We all do it. We all know how to do it. But it's taking it to the next level. I mean, there's nothing that nobody I don't think anybody that DJs couldn't do it.
there's a lot of people though. I think that would be gun shy to do that. Like I think for me, I'd be like nervous of going that like kind of tipping that line because it is humorous, right? It is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh my gosh, like the big wigs are not going to appreciate this, right? So the people in the audience are going to think it's hilarious, but the big wigs are going to be like, okay, stop being a clown. Like let's just
Actually,
do
no,
it.
the people that I work for, I send my playlist. They send me the winners, and then I find songs that may or may not be, and some of them can't. You're just
Yeah.
playing Simply the Best by Tina Turner or Joe Esposito's You're the Best Around from Karate Kid or Top of the World. So shit, you know, stuff like that. But it is kind of fun when you find um there's a company, it was a heart company, and I played the Phil Collins, You'll Be in My Heart when he walked up there. I don't know, I chuckle and I don't want to do the same show every week. So, or every month or every time I'm doing it with them. So I just kind of like put things that make me chuckle and see if anybody else catches them.
There you go. And so people got to try stuff, right? You got to have some fun with it. And so that's good. Um, I had a wedding, and this was a different kind of wedding. So, a lot of you have heard me talk about my friends up in Erie before, the ones that do the adult prom that led to my wife and I doing the one that we do for us locally. One of their guys got married, and long time ago, as soon as he kind of got engaged, I said, listen, I said, I understand you don't want any of them to have to work. So if you want, I will come up. You cover some gas mileage, you put me up at a place to stay. I don't care what it is. I'll come up and I'll do it. And we'll call it even. I said, but if you don't want me to do it and you want me there as a guest, I'll show up. I don't care. Like if that, but I don't want you to feel like you have to, whatever. Anyway, so he had me do it. And I'm 4 hours from home, drove up. Everything seemed to go up, except for half an hour into the trip. My car told me I had a low tire pressure.
Oh,
Half an hour in. Unfortunately, I left Friday, wedding Saturday, so I had some time. I pull over, all my tires are fine. So it's just a weird gauge thing that I've got going on. Okay, continue on, get up there, set up. I have a Toadmatic booth now. You guys, some of you have seen it. Has the screen in front. I have a nice, beautiful picture of the bride and groom with a little monogram piece. I did all my setup like on Friday. I'm playing, I'm showing it. He's like, "Oh, that's awesome." He said, "Your TV's flickering." What? Your TV is flickering. And I was like, no, no. And I stepped around and I looked at it. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. It was. My TV was flickering. I
oh,
didn't have a backup booth. I didn't take my Danny Max. I was trying to keep the weight of my trailer
oh
down
yeah.
so I wasn't getting 2 miles to the gallon. So I'm like, okay. So I start messing with it, change some cables, everything else, still doing it. I have an HDMI splitter. At some point now, it's not even registering an input on it. Something with it just decided it did not want to work. The sweating. Great. Figured out a way to make it work. Ran the cable directly into the TV from the computer. We had it. It worked fine the rest of the time. Saturday comes around. We're calling for rain. Okay, we're going to go inside. Oh no, now it looks like it's going to be bright and sunny from like 2:30. The white ceremony's at 4, from like 2:30 or 3 on. So we're going to wait till about 3 just to make sure, and then we'll set up. I've never had guests for an outdoor ceremony show up a half an hour before and go to the ceremony site. Almost always they like show up and they just like hang out in the parking lot or hang out by the venue. They don't go down to the ceremony. You have to almost push them down to the ceremony. I'm still setting up because of this delay with the weather and the venue owner kind of cleaning up the spot. And here comes people. I'm trying to set up. They're just coming in. Okay. Well, we're going to go with it. For whatever reason, my ceremony system, I use a wireless send to my speakers. It wasn't getting any music in. Nothing. It was registering in my mixer and everything else, but the send to the speakers wasn't working.
Oh,
Don't know why. So fine, I'll XLR at it. I'll XLR it. I'll be fine. And that worked. And we got through. So there was like so many things in this wedding that it was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like it's bad enough to have those things for a normal wedding, right? But to have all these little nuances when it's for a friend and a friend who knows how to DJ.
right. Yeah, they're peer. You're gonna play with all of your peers.
Yeah, like you asked me last week when I was telling you about it, like, are you nervous? I was like, no, I'm gonna be fine. And then like everything that started happening, I was just like, I just want to crawl in a little corner
I
and
jinxed
just
it. You're
cry.
mad at me. You're mad at me. I
Yeah, I
jinxed
am.
it.
You jinxed me. You jinxed me. But no, it was a good night overall. It was completely awesome. The couple was great. Their guests were great. They danced. They had a great time. It was a lot of fun. But it was just in the moment. Even to the point like one of my lights I can control with the remote. So I'm like trying to get it to control. Like I had it DMX'd, but it wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. So I'm like, heck with it. I'm just gonna run it off the remote. I'm hitting the remote button and nothing was working. And I was like it wasn't registering. I remembered when I got home that particular light uses a different type of remote. It doesn't use the RF, it uses the IRC.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
but with everything else going on, my brain just went so.
And all in front of your peers, which is just nerve wracking. Just
Oh,
nerve wracking.
they were none the wiser. But it was just one of those things. I'm like trying to screw with it while I'm trying to mix and everything else. And it was just like, oh my gosh, shoot me now. Shoot me now. But Yeah, Eric, wireless is great when it works, and of course when you need it the most, he's saying it doesn't. I will say this, I haven't had an issue. I actually think um after talking, it was new owners for this venue. The previous owners ran like indoor electrical through the woods above ground. I think it was dirty power. It's is what it came down to. I think that's what was creating the issue. Everything else was basically running almost off of battery power. The mixer and the wireless receivers weren't, but I think that was enough. But I think there was some dirty power is really what created the problem. But that's why you have backups, right? That's why you have a plan in place if something doesn't work. You always want to make sure you have that plan in place. And it was just one of those things where I just didn't want to have to use the plan, but you do what you do.
Do.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So tonight, again, we've got question and answer night. So we're gonna pause in between each one of them. That helps Michael take the video, know where to splice it without having to listen to all of us. He just looks for that little bleep in the audio, and then he knows, okay, that's where we're gonna start. So we're gonna pause here for like 5 seconds or more or less. And then we'll jump into our first question. All right, closing up. So the first one tonight. How do you handle today's music that isn't family friendly when it comes to schools or weddings where the contracted parties want very clean versions? Cubbie, what do you do?
Well, I really subscribe to promo only, so it's not really. I tell my clients that the edits that I have are the radio edits, the same edits they hear on the radio. So if you hear a damn or a hell on the radio, or maybe a shit, it's gonna come out during the song. But they're all radio edits, and they seem to be fine with that. But then go. I'll let you to tell you what you do.
I'm the same way, but before I go the other direction I thought of with this, there is one piece I think that's worth considering or worth kind of keeping in mind, right? I love promo only, don't get me wrong. They don't have everything. And unless you've been with them for X amount of time, what we're starting to see with some of these schools is older songs because of TikTok or whatever starting to pop up. So, and you've been doing this long enough, it probably is rare that this happens. But what do you do when they're asking for something you don't have and it's not new enough to be in your pool?
Then I'd probably go to an Amazon and buy it off of Amazon. Also, Parma only has a new, isn't that new service? I'm with them. They have backlog catalogs for 99 cents or cheaper, and you probably edit it as well, maybe because they're kind of edited.
So there is both.
I,
So
I
it's
would look. I would look
ILM.
for that first.
Yeah, it's ILM is I Love Music, I think is what it stands for. It's an overseas company. Definitely want to check that out. If you're on promo only and for some reason you still haven't found it, or if you're looking for a way to have a legitimate source, that's a place to go. They do have explicit, so you do have to be careful, right? You have to make sure that you're looking at it. It is marked, right? If it's an explicit version, it is going to be marked. So you do have that to keep in mind. But right, it gives you another option because the one thing I found with Amazon, and this I ran into this not this past weekend, but the weekend before. I had a mother-son dance. I think it was a Meek Mill song. For those of you that know, this is like a rapper. I have no idea why it was this song. Like I listened to it, I'm like, there's no way this anywhere in anything fits into like a mother-son song. But when I went looking for it, it did not exist anywhere that I could find in a clean version. Amazon only had the explicit. It wasn't in any of my pools. It wasn't on ILM. It wasn't. It was even iTunes only had the explicit. Like, or it just did not exist anywhere that I could find a clean version. When I asked, I got lucky. When I asked the bride, suddenly the song changed to like "Shine Down." I'm like, okay. Um, but it was just one of those weird things, and I'm like, so there are some things that you can do. So by the way, real quick here, because a selfless plug, if you are wanting, especially if you're doing some school dances and things like that, if you're wanting to stay up on some music charts, John and the team have done an amazing job of taking the guesswork out of it for you. You don't have to go searching for a Spotify like top 100 or a Billboard top 100 or anything like that. So there's a couple different ones. You just go to djntv.com/charts, and there will be links to Billboard, YouTube, Spotify, and then there's another, those are go to PDFs, but then there's also a link to Apple Music and their chart. So you've got like 4 different charts that you can take a look at and see, okay, what's trending and what is something that I need to make sure that I have, or make sure that I have access to that's clean. Now, when it comes to the clean music, another option, if you are diehard needing to play the song, I think it's time to learn how to run editing software. I think that's really going to be key. I've heard some people, and I think this is maybe going a little extreme, but I've heard some people dropping their tracks into virtual DJ or to Serato, running stems on them so that they can then pull out the music and mute those places they need to mute, basically making their own edits. That's a lot of work. But if you have a song you're just die hard, you need to make sure that you're playing, that can be a place to go. Before we go on to the next one, because I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but I think it's the one question that I wanted to come back to you, Cubbie, with this, and this is what we talked about a little bit off air before we got started. What do you do, especially for the schools, where it's not just radio edit, but it's also content?
Yeah, I really plays the safety card on that one. When I look at those type of families when I'm meeting with them and the couples in schools, um, I'm not going to play hotel party, hotel room party from Pitbull at a school. Yeah, I know it'd be very popular, but we talked about taking back to the hotel room and all the things that happen in the hotel room. I just don't, if they're asking for family friendly edits, then they probably want family friendly content as well. There's 1,000 songs out there that will help you um get through a dance like that.
And I think that's one of the things you do need to consider. If the couple or the client or the school, whatever might be the case, has kind of really pressed that on you, I think it's important. Obviously look for the squeaky cleans if if those things apply, but be cautious to your content. I think it's okay for certain things, depending upon what group it is. I think it's okay for at times things to slip through, but when the overall content to the song is, risque, I think you do have to be cautious to that. And the example I'll give would be um Kesha and Pitbull doing Timber, right? There's a line in there, I think about a thong or something like that. I can't remember what it is. And some of you were like, really, you're being that nitpicky? I almost played it for an elementary dance because it was requested. And I remembered that line where I think that because that would have created some problem there, right? Play it at a high school, no big deal, right? So keep those kind of things in mind for when you do that. And then I know some high schools don't even care about any, like they're just as long as it's a radio edit, they don't care. But for those that want that family friendly piece, there's the piece. Yeah, Eric, I agree with you. So Eric's comment, the sad part about it, the cleanest MP3 you can find, your audience is still going to sing the profanity and loud. You can't win. Yes, you can. And here is how I can say this. If they do, it's not on me, right? Like if have your music up. One of the things I've seen some DJs do is, well, they'll take the lyric out, right? Well, guess what ends up like they'll bring the music down so that like that's how they edit the whatever the profanity is. One, that you're asking for trouble in case you slip up, but then two, you bring that down, and if they are singing that loud, now everybody's going to hear it. So if you're going to create an edit, don't create an edit where it's suddenly muted out, like everything's muted out. Make an edit to where it's the music is still loud and you're overpowering what you can, and then it's also very clear that you played the correct version. And because I've had that happen one time where they came back to me and they're like, we heard this, and I'm like, I can guarantee it wasn't me, and I'll show you my playlist and you can listen to each one of my tracks if you want. And they found out what they heard was the students, wasn't me. So anything else you want to add on this? We harped on this quite a bit, but
No, no.
all right. So we're going to pause for a second again. and then we're gonna come back with our next question.
What are you doing?
I need the buttons that John has to play all
Yeah.
this stuff. But so all right, we're back. All right, so we're gonna pretty much go down through this list. So if you're looking at the list, Cubbie, I'm gonna kind of go in order here.
Okay.
Are you seeing smaller events in your market? And John was noticing that prior to 2020, we were really kind of getting down to the 150 range. Since COVID, he's been hearing a lot of, even under 100. Are you seeing something similar with yours?
Yeah. Actually, I got a wedding I just met with a couple. They have 60 guests. I'm like, oh, fun. And half of it, and like 10 of them is a wedding party, like 5 on each side. So, yeah, I think they are trending down mostly probably due to food costs and alcohol costs. And I know the venue doesn't change and we don't change, for the amount of guests, but I think with rising food cost and dessert and alcohol, that they could be trending down to um, try to cut costs realistically.
And I think you hit on it. I think where you're going to see where you're not going to see the downturn is going to be those venues that allow you to pretty much do just about everything, right? They allow you to bring in the alcohol. Maybe you have an offsite caterer. That there's still some issues potentially with there that could create some numbers. But the more that the couples can do themselves or have control over themselves, I think the larger the parties are going to be. But you hit on it. They're like food costs, alcohol costs, all that kind of stuff is rising. And so this is a way to cut it out. I mean, you cut out 2, 3 people, that's sometimes $200-300 depending upon the place. So that's the quickest way potentially to save money for a lot of couples without sacrificing the quality of a lot of things. So I will say I've kind of had a mixed bag. I don't see them under 100. I say that although my wedding, 2 weekends ago was one of those rather small ones, but the couple was from out of the area, so I chalked it up more to that. I'm seeing more in like the 120-ish. So not dipping all the way down under 100, but definitely down from the 150 range. Um, I also would say like I wonder how much of this has been the barns, right? Barns are really popular. You're not fitting 300 people in a barn. Well, none of the barns around where I'm at. So I think that's been another thing is like the venue size has also caused a restriction because you don't have a place to put people to eat
True.
in that kind of aspect. So, but so definitely downturn. Um,
Yep.
and I think you hit the nail on the head as to why. So just be aware of that it's coming. And your guests may or your clients may potentially try to use that to negotiate. But as we all know, our time is our time. Doesn't cost us any more to play for 200 people as it does to play for 150. Maybe a little bit different equipment, but not that much of a difference. So just kind of keep those things in mind.
Sometimes it's harder to get 60 people to dance. I can get 200 dance really quickly, but sometimes you get 60 people and nobody wants to be the only one on the dance floors, but they're dancing in their seats. You're just waiting for them to all get up and do something, slow dance, cha-cha, something, get them all on the dance floor again.
I will say this though, the smaller weddings that I've seen, they stay longer. If
Yes.
that makes sense, right? Like when you have the large crowds, it seems like you have this mass exodus like right after dinner before you even get a chance to really do anything. There's like this mass exodus and you're narrowed down. But on these smaller ones, like you might lose a couple people, but most everybody's hanging out until the end.
They're
Um,
committed.
exactly. So they're the more important people anyway. So maybe that's why. You don't have the people who was like, oh yeah, it was my babysitter when I was, 18 and I haven't seen her for 30 years, but I decided to have her at my daughter's wedding.
Yep.
Yeah, she's not gonna stick around. Okay. All right, we're gonna pause again. We're gonna come back. Okay, we're back. So I'm curious about this because you and I both work individually, right? You don't ever go out as a team, right?
No.
No, okay. All right. So we're in the same boat. So the question here
Excuse
is,
me.
would you take an event, would you take a wedding entertainment event where one, you are only the MC, somebody else is the DJ. We'll just start with that one. We'll go with that one, and we'll hit the other ones here in a moment. Would you do that where you are only the MC? Bless you. And
Thank you.
somebody else. Every time I said that, you sneezed. I wonder if you're allergic to my comment.
Yeah, it
Uh,
might be. Ooh.
would you do that?
Somebody from my company or somebody outside of my company?
Let's go outside of your company first.
Probably. Yeah, shit. Yeah, I don't care. I mean, as long as I got my what I wanted, you know. Ooh. Um, yeah, I suppose I would. I've never had the opportunity. Nobody's ever asked me, but if it arose, yeah, I'd take an easy night.
So, and I think someone like you, this would work really well. Like you've got a lot of your ins and outs and nuances that you do that really sets you apart as an MC. I'm not saying your mixing isn't and your playing isn't because I just haven't really heard that, but I've heard of a lot of the things and we've talked about a lot of things that you say and do throughout the course of a night that would really set you apart as an MC. And I think I could see that happening. I could see that happening potentially for you. Obviously, I think the question the other way, then obvious, for somebody in your company is, yeah, sure, if they're that into it, why not?
Yep.
Um, I don't know. I think I'd be willing to, but man, I would have to know the person. I would have to know the person because I think there's a connection that also has to happen between the MC and the DJ to be able to step in and have that all night long aspect, right? Because your DJ is probably going to be controlling your microphone to make sure that
Yeah.
you're loud enough and all those pieces. You need to be able, if you're going to MC and potentially then, you know, keep the crowd energized, you need to make sure that whoever's on the other end of that DJing is going to be able to do their job so that you're not fighting to get energy and all of a sudden he or she drops a slow song. Um, I think there's a lot of pieces to that. Um, so what about this? Would you do it where you're only there for the cocktail and dinner, no dancing?
No, not worth my time.
What if they were going to pay you your rate?
Well, yeah, shit. Yeah, you betcha. Be there all day long. But I don't think anybody's gonna pay my rate for a cocktail and dinner, no dance. And I mean, you book so far out, I've got to make what I got to make on a Saturday, and I don't, now if it was like 2 weeks and I didn't have anything booked, yeah, I know I'd probably still take the night off. I'd probably just enjoy the night off.
I would say my answer is no to this. I think even if they were willing to pay my rate. Now, I say that and it's like, every once in a while I would really like an easy night where I'm done early. Where even if I start earlier in the day, it's fine. I'm done early and I can come home, I can kind of chill and I'm you know, done putting all my gear away and in the house at a decent hour. But I don't know, like I do this because I love it. I love the interaction. I love the playing aspect. I love getting people up and dancing. I love the happiness that goes with it. And I feel like cocktail and dinner, I get to be more of an MC. I get to do kind of more of those other pieces, which can be fun, but it's just not the same. So I'd be real hesitant to go, yeah, because I think part of me would just be kind of, I don't want to say miserable, but I just would be kind of leaving the night going, that was a waste.
Yeah.
Even if the paycheck was there at the end, like I would just feel like, man, that night was a waste of my time or felt like a waste of my time. I don't know. That's just it's my gut. My gut that kind of says, nah, I don't know if I want to. All
And
right.
also, you'd have to be in a whole separate room. So when I tore down, I wasn't disturbing anything else. I don't want to, because I don't want to tear down while they're dancing. That looks obnoxious. So it'd have to be.
Well, or the scenario that there is no dancing, right?
Oh
They're
well, yeah,
they're
that's
having a
true. Yeah,
cocktail
it's just
hour, they're
in a
having
dinner,
dinner. Maybe
and
maybe
that's it.
maybe the
That'd be
only dancing
first.
is the formalities,
Yeah,
right? And then
yeah.
they're gonna, all right, we're done.
Huh.
But yeah, you would have to be set up in another area so there's no interference with that
I
teardown.
pictured, I pictured they were having a band, and they didn't want you to,
Oh,
and the band was going to take over after cocktail and dinner.
I'll tell you, that's the advantage of having one of those quick teardown booths.
Yeah.
Because you can just You're out the door. All right. So we said cocktail and dinner, no dance. How about no cocktail, no dinner, only dance? You're in a separate room, so you don't have to worry about setting up during dinner, like during their dinner area.
Now, see, you've been saying no to everything I said. I'd probably do no on this one because I don't like. Yeah, I'd probably say no on that one because if I can't bribe them during cocktail and dinner, then it's hard to win them over just for dance only.
That is a good point, right? Because like the whole night kind of plays together. So you get if you can't get them ready, and you're just gonna. I will say this. This is one I would say yes to.
See, I knew it.
Eh,
We did.
yeah, we disagree, and it's
Oh
okay. We
yeah,
can we
somebody
can
loves it.
disagree.
Yeah, oh
I've
yeah.
I've had a lot of situations, more cocktail than dinner, but a lot of situations where they brought in an outside musician, and I've been a part of it because in the venue where I was at, I had to be set up, and so they paid me to be there. They paid somebody else or a friend of theirs was playing. I don't know what was the case, but it didn't matter to me. I was there. But it created a kind of different type of vibe. Like I'm used to playing for the dinner, I'm used to playing for the cocktails and having that happen. But this live musician added an element that I wasn't used to. Uh, and it didn't impact it negatively in the night. And it was kind of a cool little thing to have. And I think again, because I like the dancing portion, I like the other part, it was fine. So now here I'm going to play devil's advocate because we know that whoever, let's say it's a musician of some sort, they could have somebody that is horrible, or they could have somebody that primes that pump for you. If it was somebody that's priming the pump, if it was somebody you knew would be capable of helping things out through that time, would that change your mind?
Yeah, possibly. I guess now that I think about it, I have done it in the past, but it's been years ago. I had this Italian family bring in a Frank Sinatra impersonator out of Chicago. I like I said again, I live in Iowa, so he
Mhm.
brought this big name Frank Sinatra, impersonator over for cocktail, and that was kind of fun because it was easy to prime him, and I still did my, announcements and things of that nature. But yeah, it was pretty cool to work with him. I
Nice.
only did it once. Again, it's only did it once, so I don't know.
All right. And there's a final one here before we move on to the next question. You split would you do it if you split the DJ time with a DJ friend of the family?
No.
So this is not somebody from your company. This happens to be I'm coming to a wedding of yours, Cubbie. I know the bride and groom. I'm a qualified DJ, but we haven't technically met before. We're gonna split the night.
Yeah, what the heck? I go get the same rate. Like I said, so they still got the same rate. I go pee, go grab cupcake when he's spinning. You betcha. You want to work how much? Go ahead.
So here's where I would probably have some difficulty because I would be nervous about my gear. I would be nervous about my gear of them deciding to come in and just blast it and blow it or or something along those lines.
Oh,
Not playing cautious to those elements. Um that I think that there would be, I'm not saying I wouldn't do it. I'm saying I'd have to have some conversation with this DJ. I'd have to give some understanding of like, listen, I understand what you're going to want to do, and I'm fine with it, but there's going to be some ground rules if you're plugging into my stuff.
right. Yeah, it's conversations to have pre before the event, and a clarification with the bride and groom that he's not coming in there to blow my gear up.
So there we go. So the Cubby and I don't agree on pretty much anything this entire time. That last one maybe a little bit, um, but hopefully we give you some pros and cons to those scenarios. That was interesting. That was a very interesting question. The way that it was developed. Um, you know, a lot of us, I think there's a lot of DJs who would say, if the money's there, I'm there. And if the only thing you're doing for this for at the end of the night is a paycheck, like the only thing you're doing this for at the end of the night is a paycheck, then all four of those were probably yeses for you. But for me personally, I need to have the right vibe from the night, or I might as well just stay home. So All right, we're gonna pause for a second. This next one's gonna be a real short one, I guarantee it. Okay, we're back, and here is the question that I've got for you. Do you pick up empties around your DJ gear during an event?
Yes.
Yeah. I told you this was going to be an easy one, right? If you're not, like, what are you doing? Like, and I don't mean like that negatively necessarily, but you want to keep your area looking clean. You want to, you want it to be a reflection of you. A lot of DJs will like complain, oh, so and so put their bag over by my stuff and made it look bad. And what, think about what empties look like, right? Pick them up, clean them up, right? I get it. You're not the you're not the catering crew or whatever, but it's a way to keep it clean. And I will also say this: just because you think it's empty doesn't mean it's completely empty.
Yeah.
And if somebody kicks it, some of that can roll out. And if you got some speakers sitting on the floor or you got some lights that are sitting on the floor, they're gonna get covered in something. So clean it up.
And
Clean it up.
also people see you picking it up and go, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, especially if you get one of those looks, if you know who did it, like, here, let me get that for you. And then throw it in the garbage. And they're like, what?
I've done it a lot of times just from the standpoint of like if somebody sets it down, like even whether full or not, if somebody sets it somewhere near my area, it's getting moved.
Yeah.
And then when they go back to look for it, it's not there. And that's not my problem. And most of them, unless they're really drunk, that's a different story. Most of them get the idea, oh, I shouldn't have set that there, right? Like well, on the speaker thing is a whole other issue, but I've had a lot of them who are like, okay, I'm not going to put it on the speaker, but I'll put it next to the speaker. Yeah, that's just as bad for me because I've seen too many people kick stuff. Yeah, no,
And it's got the residual ice in it. They may drink their, liquor drink it, but sell the residual ice in it.
it's just gonna be nasty. Eric says he does, and he also takes a couple sips from what's left in the bottom.
Oh,
That
oh.
that that just turned my head there for a second there. Definitely. All right, I told you that was gonna be a quick one. All right, come back here in just a second for the next one.
Yes.
This next question, I really think this next one is maybe where we might end up tonight because I think this could have some promise here to maybe talk about for a little bit. Um, are there certain things? Are there certain things that a new DJ should include on their DJ contract? What is something that you think needs to be in a new DJ's contract?
Damages do not exceed the amount of the contract.
Okay.
So that they can't sue you for $5,000 on a $2,000 contract. If my only value to you at the time of booking me was $2,000, then then you can't sue me for $5,000. But make sure the damages don't exceed the amount of the contract.
Yeah. Now, and this is where we probably should save this one and be like, John, what can you say about this? That I mean, that makes a lot of common sense, but in the same respect, like, I wonder if there's any grounds for, if the DJ did something that the couple feels it made it ruined their wedding, could they go after more than that? Or is
Not
it really
not
kind of
if they
stuck
agreed
because
to
of
it.
that?
Not if they agreed to it in the pre-contract.
So there you go. There you go. Are there other things that come to mind? Are there other things in your contract where you're like, when I started out, I didn't put that in there, but this is something I really realized or made sense
Yeah,
to me
the
put in after?
place of venue for suit will always be my county, my town, my county, my state. Um, because I'm not going to go
Explain
to
that
their
to the average
county.
person who has no clue what you just said.
Okay, so in the event that the contract does go awry, you end up having to sue your client. They didn't pay you something they canceled and they didn't pay you within the time. You want to make sure that the place of venue for the suit is always your location, meaning that city, town, Polk County, whatever county, city, state, in Iowa. So if you get a bride that lives in Minnesota, for me, lives in Minnesota, Missouri, or whatever, I don't have to go there to sue them. They have to come back to my place to defend themselves.
So it reduces any cost that you might have, and kind of the same idea if they decide that they want to bring charges against you. Not that they would, but if that's not, whatever, it still has to be your location.
Yes. Yeah. Anything suits deriving from the contract or whatever, blah, 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 should be in your city, county, and state so that you're not going wherever they are at. It's really, I've never ever had to use it. So, but I used to do litigation of defaulted leases in my prior life. And it was always a nice thing to have. So I didn't have to, we'd have to go all over the country to mitigate all these defaulted leases.
Okay. I will say one of the things that we hear a lot of times, like, oh, there's, I mean, I've even heard this not related to DJs, but others about putting in about a meal in your contract. Um, there's a lot of stuff that I think people talk about putting into contracts that just waters them down, doesn't add any credence to it, doesn't help the situation any. And in the end, would you really fight it if it didn't happen? Right? Like let's assume for a second you put in, I need to be fed in my contract. You show up to the wedding to go do your job, and whatever. They ran out of food, they forgot you, they forgot to include you, what, and suddenly you don't have it. Are you gonna walk out on said event? I would hope not. I would hope not. And the reason being is for two huge ones. One, the PR of you walking out over not getting fed would be so hugely negative, whether you're in the right or not, because the court of public opinion doesn't care what was in that contract. They're going to care that you walked out on that event because you didn't get fed. And the second is, if it's that important to you, bring your own food. Right? Like if you have a medical condition, you should be bringing your own food anyway. Like that's just kind of my 2 cents. Like an emergency backup, right? Maybe they're going to feed you, take your emergency backup, and then if something happens, you don't need it. Keep it cold or whatever, take it home, and you're good to go. Um, like, because I know some people have medical things where they've got to eat so after, so many, so long, or they have issues. I get that. Then provide for yourself. Then provide for yourself. It's awesome. It's awesome. But I will also say this, right? This is one thing I heard recently, and I didn't realize it until I started analyzing it. Wedding food is not really designed to be eaten week after week after week, right? Like it's not that overly healthy. It's not, the best thing for you. So if you're continually eating it 2, 3 nights a week, every week, might not be the best option. So Eric has a good one here. I think this is a good one to keep. He says, I need the venue to allow me entry at least 90 minutes before and after the event. That's in my contract. The thing you've got to be careful there, right? The thing you've got to be careful there is your contract is with the couple, not the venue. So if the venue says, sorry, you only get an hour, you don't really have any recourse with the couple to not cover that. I think what is important to do is to have not necessarily part of the contract, but a rider, if you will, that you need to make sure that you're giving, if that's something you need. If you need 90 minutes in order to set up, just make sure that this is laid out. Hey, these are the things that I need to have in order to perform for your day. Right? These are the things that I need to have. Please, if there's any of these that can't happen, I need to know so we can make adjustments. But again, I think you run into a little bit of a problem if the venue says, sorry, you only get an hour. I mean, you could say, well, then that's my loophole to get out of the contract. I don't know. I don't know. That's my thought.
Again, yeah, again, the backlash could be worse than you'd really want it to be.
Especially because at the time that some of those moments would be known, um, would just be a problem. Would just, would potentially be a problem. Because a lot of times, unless this is a venue that you've played at before and you would know that to be the case, you probably don't find out until maybe that planning meeting. And oh, by the way, what time do you need to get in? What time how much time do you need to set up? Oh, I need 90 minutes. Oh, okay, we'll let the venue know. They tell the venue. No, they only get an hour. By the way, our wedding next weekend, the venue says you only get an hour. Those are things that happen. I know, Eric, and I'm just using yours as an example because I'll be honest, like I show up 2 hours before 2 minutes. Yeah. Whew, I really set up fast.
Yeah,
I set up 2 hours before I show up 2 hours before if I'm doing anything more than a single small setup. Just so that I'm not rushed and everything. But there is a venue in town here. Now they don't do this anymore, but back in the day, they used to do 2 weddings in a day in each ballroom. And if you were the second DJ, you had an hour from the time the first wedding ended to the time that the second wedding's to the time you had to be set up ready to go. You had an hour. And that included the other DJ getting out of that spot that you were getting into.
and they were flipping the room, and you had to fight
They were
those
flipping the
people
room.
in and out. Yeah, that'd been
It was.
horrible.
Oh, it was. It was. And I think a lot of what happened was nobody wanted to get, have receptions in the middle of the afternoon. They finally realized that. Um, but yeah. Aaron's DJing for food or he's not coming. Well, that's another story, Aaron. You and I have to go. You and I have to do dinner again when you're back in the States. But again, I come back to this like the things you need to have in your contract are the things that need to be there that one that are enforceable by with the couple and that protect you, but also that protect them. Don't don't have contracts that only cover your butt, right? They need to be this needs to be a mutual type of situation with a couple. And I don't think Cubbie's, suit in his county, town, and state is, violating that. But, to prevent something, to prevent the couple from having any power for something where you screwed up, I think is not necessarily a good contract either. There needs to be a couple pieces there. Cancellation policy, I think is a good one. Yeah. I've seen some DJs do that, right? Where it's like the couple canceled on me 2 weeks before. What grounds do I have? Postponement policy. Nice. Nice. Anything else you would add? Anything else you think needs to be in there?
No, oh no, I think these are great. I was just sorry, I was zoning off on the question. Like, I thought it was one thing. There's all those cancellations. My cancellation is 6 months because I'm a wedding DJ. I'm not going to book somebody within 6 months. So if you cancel within 6 months, you bounce the entire balance is due.
Is that only weddings or is that all your events?
That's all my events.
Okay.
But I don't have corporate cancel on me ever. So it's mostly for brides, when things happen situationally, but mostly because, I've held this June for 2 years and I'm not going to rebook it. I wish I could. That's just how I support my family. I don't have a full-time job and not to poor mouth. This is the industry I got into and this is the job that I chose, but it's 6 months, unfortunately.
My cancellation policy, and this isn't necessarily what we were talking about. My cancellation is 90 days. It used to be 60 days. And I bumped it to 90 because I had a school cancel on me. And it came down to and it was the most ridiculous thing. Like they already had like a super, super great deal. And they like wanted me to take off like $200 more. And I was like, no. And we already have a contract. And at this point, they were 70 days out and they ended up finding somebody else and they canceled on me. Now I kept the retainer fee, but at that point, I forget what my retainer fee was. It was small, I think, at the time. And so it was like, I realized I was like, yeah, I'm completely out that weekend as a result, completely out of anything that I could have had, wedding or otherwise. Um, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to bump it to 90. Now Cubby's 6 months thing has me going, but
I mean,
I,
the thing is, I'm not going to rebook it. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not.
I will say I've not, you know, with the, I think that has really been the only cancellation I've had, other than I've had a couple, I take it back, because I've had a couple couples that have like split before the wedding. Um, but I ended up, most cases, I ended up rebooking because they were like farther out.
Yeah.
So,
Right. And I had a dad who paid for his daughter's wedding right off the bat, read the contract, it's in refund of any money's paid. So I flipped it. He was a military guy. We flipped it to his military ball. Like now he gets half his money, some of his money back from the military because I'll give him a receipt that showed that he paid X amount of dollars, and then he can get the money back from the school or from the military ball.
nice.
Yeah. I mean, I work with a lot of people. I mean, I haven't sued anybody ever. So I'm like, a lot of times it's look, just pay me what my DJ would have made. You know, he's the one that's got the family. He's the one that was, he's the one that's gonna be out the money. A lot of times it's gonna be just pay me what I would have paid the DJ, and we'll call it square. And they understand that. They realize that um, and they pay it, and they think it's good deal.
Yeah. And that's the thing we also have to keep in mind, right? Like with the contracts is just being smart about it. Like, you know, again, would, you know, don't put anything in there that you're not willing to stand behind and enforce if push comes to shove, right? And you know, if there's something where you're going to be like, well, I'm not gonna follow through with that, then don't put it in there. You know, don't let that kind of dictate how you move forward, um, going forward. Like don't use it as a scare tactic, I guess would be my advice there. Um, you know, just, you know, again, you may never sue, you may never decide to take that contract to court, but you know, don't water it down with things that are meaningless when it comes to enforcement. So, well, listen, we are down to the end. We are down to the end. I just so with that in mind, let me talk about what's coming up. So obviously we got a hanging with Howie that is coming up next, at 10 o'clock in the chill room. According to this, oh no, I was looking at the wrong day. I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong day for a second. So yeah, hanging with Howie's coming up, djntv.com/chill. That is where you're going to go and you can hang out with the guys and the gals and what they are talking about tonight. I have no idea. But then when they are done with that recording, they will open it up, hang out, talk all night long, whatever you want to do. It's a great opportunity to just kind of hang. I don't know if any of the Midwest DJ crew is going to be chiming in. I don't know what they've got it going on out there. So you might have some people that are coming to you while they're at the show, and you can ask them questions about what's going on with Midwest DJs. Um, Coming up tomorrow, John's got his DJ tips in the morning. And then at 9 o'clock, mobile DJ electrical questions about using AC power with gear. That's on Tuesday nights with Ben. You thought that was going to be with me. No, it's going to be with Ben, because you don't want to hear me try and describe what the heck that was just about. But no, you go tune in. That'll be a great show. And then at 10 o'clock, the Tuesday night music show. So again, you're going to be back, djntv.com/chill. That is where you're going to go for that. And again, they're going to be talking. You can hang out. You can watch. When it's done, turn off, or they'll turn off the recording. Then you can chime in and maybe put your own 2 cents into the matter as well. Wednesday morning, my DJ tips will go ahead and go up. And then at 9, the replay of the Tuesday night show will be on YouTube. And at 10 o'clock, the replay of Hanging with Howie will be on YouTube. So if for some reason you can't join in live with those chill room discussions, you can still catch them out on their replays happening on Wednesday night. All right. So on that note, I thank you very much for chiming in with us tonight. I appreciate everybody who is in the chat and giving that feedback. And again, if you were trying to do it on Facebook, I wasn't there. I was watching the ones come through on YouTube, which is what I told you to do. Listen. Hope everybody has a great one. I believe John will be back next week. We're crossing our fingers because Cubbie and I, we can only kind of fake it till we make it. John helps us out. So have yourself a good one. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.